For those of you who don't know me, I spoke for the first time back in October about my experience writing a blog that was then primarily focused on South Asian dating. Although I wasn't writing about my dates and I only talked about general dating topics, there was an incredible backlash from the community, which included people saying really vile things. For example, my favorite vile thing was, by the length of your posts, you neither have a job nor a gym membership. TikTok, there goes the marriage clock. So, due to which I shut down. It was me. I didn't cry that night.
Wait, was there, do you know who that person is?
No, it's because I blog as myself and everyone else gets to post anonymously. So.
Go, Smitha!
Anyway, so due to which I decided to shut down my blog. In October of last year, I decided to own my blog, my thoughts, my quirkiness, and give up on what people thought. But for more circumstantial reasons more than anything else, for 7 months I didn't write. I was inspired to start again after watching an episode of an Oprah-like show called Subdrift July. Anybody watch that show? It's being hosted by Amir Khan in India. And although my focus is not the show, I'm going to read a bit from my blog to set the tone from which I hope you'll listen to me tonight. The show is fundamentally about what plagues the mindset of all people, and especially our South Asian community at large, to which Amir says, in our society, there are some bitter truths to which we turn a blind eye. When I look these truths in the eye, I become disturbed. I become sad. At times I wonder why I think of things that do not concern me. My life's working nicely, so what difference do these make to me? But it makes a difference. I'm a part of the society. A string of events touches you, me, each one of us, and it's passing, resonating, reverberating. All said, those responsible for our woes are amongst us, or maybe we're collectively responsible. Thank you for the slow down sign. I'm of the latter mindset that we are collectively responsible. An offense against one person is an offense against all of us. So for example, when we see a woman in our community going through something, do not think of her as someone going through a situation that doesn't relate to you, but as a sister. And that ultimately what you accept for her is what you accept for your actual sisters, your female friends, your nieces, and your one-day daughters. As a second woman from that same episode said at the end of her heart-wrenching story, because if to commit atrocities is a sin, then to endure them is also a sin. On that note, the atrocity and the corresponding sin of silence that I'm here to talk about today is domestic violence. So, actually, Sheil didn't know this, but it would have been really appropriate for me to go after, yes? And I'm sorry for talking about something so heavy, but in recent months, I have learned that domestic violence is pervasive in our community, and awareness desperately needs to be raised about it. My intention tonight is to clear up some misconceptions, because although most in our community would like to believe, or even affirm otherwise, this is a community issue that affects many women. Not just the women we imagine going to Upnagar, women our moms' ages, or women from India who let men dominate them, or who have low self-esteem, and basically we imagine them being women who are the opposite of us type, where in fact they're women just like you and me. Most of us imagine domestic violence as something out of a movie scene, and often it does look like that. A man being physically violent towards hitting, shaking, pushing a woman. But that's only one way that domestic violence manifests itself. When I Googled domestic violence, the first few sites use language as follows to describe it. Domestic violence and abuse is not limited to obvious physical violence. Domestic violence can also mean endangerment, criminal coercion, kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, trespassing, harassment, and stalking. Abuse is physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological actions or threats of actions that influence another person. This includes any behaviors that frighten, intimidate, terrorize, manipulate, hurt, humiliate, blame, injure, or wound someone. That clarification was necessary because it has been brought to my attention that many in the community are confused as to what domestic violence is, and therefore don't give the topic the importance it deserves. And no, going to the annual Upnagar fundraiser does not mean you understand the issue at hand or actually support those who have experienced domestic violence. Having said all that, I feel that most of us, self-included, can't wrap our brains around something no matter how much information we have until we hear a story. So I'm going to tell you one. For those of you who know me, I'm the queen of disclaimers. So here's one that fellow Bollywood fans will be familiar with. The events and characters depicted in this story are fictitious. Any similarity to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. So, now, let's talk about a hypothetical situation. Imagine a South Asian woman in a big city like ours who is very active in the local community. She briefly dated a prominent individual in the same community, and the relationship ended in her filing an emergency order of protection against him. After which, she found out that her ex had a 2-year plenary order of protection from another South Asian woman from just a little over a year ago. A few days later, after having her ex escorted out of an establishment, a non-profit South Asian organization that her ex's closest friends were leaders of prohibited her from attending their annual event due to her order of protection, which at the time was only temporary. When she contested their decision to the entire board of 10-plus community leaders, she was essentially called a liar, and many accusations were made against her well before she even had the opportunity to present her side of the case to a judge. As if going through what she did with her ex and being persecuted in the way she was by a community organization wasn't painful enough, she then had to experience many of her closest friends choosing a state of neutral due to their personal or professional affiliations with her ex, not being able to get even one friend to testify for her, and being lectured on just letting it go. She couldn't understand how an entire board, her friends, members of the community could all react the way they did, or worse, not react at all. Making this correlation might be too harsh for some, but since she only saw things in black and white, a running thought in her mind was that no one would be okay or want to socialize with a child molester. So what is it about a man who commits domestic violence that everyone can make themselves okay with him? Did all these people actually think that a single South Asian girl would make something like this up, put herself and her family through this, take the stigma upon herself of being an abuse victim, spend thousands of dollars in lawyers' fees, seriously hurt herself when it comes to dating options because only the rare Indian guy would sign up for that kind of perceived baggage, all for the pleasure of some kind of payback? When she spoke openly to friends of hers and women in the community about this, she was horrified to learn that domestic violence was rampant. 3 women she spoke to were in the worst kind of physically violent, abusive relationships with former husbands of theirs. Others had experienced domestic violence in some other form mentioned earlier. It was because of these countless stories that she came to the determination that silence is an atrocity, because it is the reason this happens to women and emboldens those who commit domestic violence to do this again and again. Most of all, because this happened to her, she was now responsible for it not happening to someone else. Again, hypothetical stories don't have the impact that real stories do. But if you talk to anyone in the audience, any female, I assure you that she will definitely either have experienced, at least know someone, or at least know several people who have experienced some form of domestic violence. I hope you all didn't mind me speaking about this topic. I know it's been a very long night. And we're going to end with Sandhya, which is wonderful. So if you'd like, you can find this open mic piece and other things that I write about at smilemoonsworld.com.